de mi corazón.
Congresswoman, thank you. It seems like you have finally won at least a little bit. Like they have been following you for a long time, and now they are starting to sing the same tune. Is that correct? Am I a little overly optimistic on this?
I think you're absolutely accurate, Benny, and I really appreciate you pointing out the obvious. Yes, on Joe Biden's first day in office, I introduced articles of impeachment on the very issue of abuse of power and business deals and corruption when involving Burisma in Ukraine. And I did that because I knew exactly what you knew, Benny, what most people knew that were paying attention to the Hunter Biden laptop story and that were willing to dig for the truth. And so we've had a lot of information all along. But let me tell you something. There is some damning information, even more information that will be coming out soon that will literally start linking money ties directly to Joe Biden. And I'm very excited about that. And I've been calling for impeachment of Joe Biden, like I said, from his first day in office. But I've decided something, Benny. I'm really looking forward to an impeachment inquiry. And here's why. If we vote for impeachment and just a vote and impeach him in the House, then the American people, we do an injustice for them. We need an impeachment inquiry that is a long, drawn-out, extremely painful process for Joe Biden, but not just for Joe Biden. All of the people that worked in his vice president administration, that works in the FBI, that works in the Department of Justice, that works in the service, that works in the archives, that have covered up this information in the Treasury, all of the people involved in this, which I would call one big, very scandalous issue of collusion and racketeering, that I believe we could bring RICO charges against all of these people. But because they have conspired to cover up crimes committed by Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and many other people to enrich themselves, abusing the most powerful seats of power in the United States of America. And I look forward to months and months and months, as long as it needs to take, to draw out the details tediously for the American people and for the media that really want to ignore it. And I think that is the right thing to do. I really do.
I have a series of questions that I'm really fascinated to learn about this process. However, gotta stop and rewind the tape here. What do you mean? You've seen new evidence? There are a lot of theories out there of tapes. Greg Kelly saying there's going to be some tapes that drop that prove Biden's bribery. We've heard of the FD 1023 and that there are tapes available of Joe Biden literally committing bribes. What do you know? What can you tell us right now of new evidence?
Well, I wouldn't say exactly what the new evidence is, but I know it's coming and I know what it is, and I'm excited for it to come out. I like to present evidence when I have it in hand, not just rumors of evidence. And I think that's the right way to do it, to earn people's trust, and also to show that I'm committed to telling the truth, not just throwing out inflammatory, salacious sounding things to create headlines or get social media clicks. I think it's so important, and it's the right thing to do, Benny, not to inflame the situation, but just to simply present the truth for the American people, because the truth is so damning, and we've already presented so much. Look at what we've uncovered. We've uncovered SARS reports in the Treasury, thousands of pages. Then we subpoenaed that information, and we got all kinds of bank accounts. Then we showed the wire transfers coming in from countries, foreign nationals, foreign governments, foreign businesses from all over the world going into these fake LLCs managed by the Biden family. And then we showed also proof of payments out of these LLCs to all these Biden family members. But now we're digging in the details. And Benny, you did such a good job leading up to our interview here, explaining out and laying out more details that are going to be coming out about how people that worked for then Vice President Joe Biden, how they're involved in covering it up. We have the IRS and we have the Secret Service tipping off Hunter Biden before when they were getting ready for Joe Biden to go into the presidency. They tipped him off, and then they stopped the investigation from the IRS. We have so many things that we're about to start presenting, but the real evidence is coming out very soon, and I look forward for you to be able to tell people about it, and for everyone to report this. And I really hope Americans are paying close attention.
Wow. I mean, I do agree with this tactic. We've spoken before, and I've spoken with a number of your colleagues, and now I'm convinced that the impeachment inquiry is necessary. And there's a reason why I played that that very, very feline, frenetic energy Washington Post reporter recoiling, right, with horror of being asked about Joe Biden's crimes that are like evidenced out for the mass of the American people. I mean, they already know about this stuff, right? But for some reason, the press has this extreme antibody reaction to this. And if you were to do this impeachment inquiry in the way that you're talking about, there is no way to ignore it. Am I wrong?
No, there's no way to ignore it. And this is the proper way to do it. And I am all for it. And I tell you what, Kevin McCarthy is a yes vote for an impeachment inquiry. Jim Jordan is a yes vote. James Comer, Jason Smith, many Republicans are a yes vote for an impeachment inquiry right now. And I'm going to argue that we will see it put into action when we go back to Congress, possibly as early as next week. I'm demanding it. And Benny, I'm so serious about this because I know the evidence is there, and I'm so disgusted and embarrassed for our country that we have such a corrupt president that we have allowed to remain in power, and that they have colluded and conspired to cover up his crimes. It is purely disgusting to me, and I will not tolerate it. And that's why I came out very boldly to my constituents at home at a town hall, and I said, I'm not voting to fund the government until we have an impeachment inquiry. I absolutely will not. And I'm not going to fund the government for any kind of COVID mask, vaccine mandates, future vaccines, COVID insanity. It's a mental illness at this point. I'm not going to fund the government for Ukraine to further a war that's just murdering people. And what it is doing is it's lining the pockets of Democrats. I think that money is going into nonprofits and going into all kinds of different types of organizations and looping back and lining the pockets of Democrat candidates. I will not vote to fund that. And I'm not going to vote to fund the weaponized government. I mean, when we are seeing the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Torres, and he's getting 22 years in prison, and he wasn't even at the Capitol, and we're seeing many others be persecuted in this. I'm absolutely not funding a government that is doing that to the American people. And I won't fund a short-term CR that does any of those things and continues Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden's policy writers. It's time for us to get serious. And I'm telling you, things are about to get real when we go back to Washington next week.
Buckle up. Buckle up, baby. We've been telling people, buckle up. The GOP is really finally serious. And I think for the first time in my lifetime, you're going to actually see a muscular GOP majority in the House deliver. And we're excited for it. Thank you, Marjorie, for obviously pushing on these issues now in your home state, back from D.C. in Georgia. Of course, you see Fani Willis, who is attempting to lock up Donald Trump. We love, by the way, your avatar on Twitter X. It's really, really great. the Fulton County avatar there, a symbol, a symbol for our side of being in the right fight. But it is unnerving, quite frankly, for people to watch what's happening to Donald Trump. Can you give us an update from the state of Georgia? Like, how is this happening in the state of Georgia? Is there anyone in the state that has the guts to fight this? Is anything to be done? What is the outcome that you see in the future?
Yeah, thanks for asking me, Benny, because there's a lot of confusion out there about what can be done about it. And while I changed my profile picture to stand in solidarity with President Trump and the other people in Georgia who are being wrongfully charged by Fani Willis, our out of control, Soros funded Fulton County DA. The situation in Georgia is very grave. we do not have the means to impeach her. And I really applaud the efforts of the state senator. He's in my district, actually. Colton Moore. He introduced articles of impeachment, and I'm cheering for him. I think it's great. It's a great step out there, but the votes do not exist in the Senate in Georgia or the House to actually impeach her. So while it's a very good sign, it's a good messaging topic, it just is impossible. And that's unfortunate, very unfortunate. What's going to happen is starting October 1st, there's going to be sort of like an oversight committee that will be set up that will investigate Fani Willis and will review her conduct. And that board, by law in the state of Georgia, will have the ability to possibly even remove her from office. So that's the hope that I have, is the board that's being set up on October 1st, as well as on Judiciary Committee in Washington. Jim Jordan announced an investigation. He's investigating Alvin Bragg as well and other state DAs we think they are colluding with Biden's Department of Justice. And we think Fani Willis's office is also colluding with Jack Smith, the special counsel, and Biden's Department of Justice. And once again, while she is charging President Trump with RICO and racketeering charges for simply using his freedom of speech and saying the election is stolen, it's really the Democrats who are guilty of racketeering and should be charged with RICO charges themselves for the great conspiracy and collusion efforts to lock people up, to persecute people, to use the power of government to stop their political opponents, and then more gravely and seriously to destroy freedom of speech in this country when it comes to political speech. So that's how it looks on the ground in Georgia. So we're really going to have to be working hard to do everything we can. Hopefully that committee that's set up on October 1st will act swiftly and stop Fani Willis from what she's doing.
Yeah, I mean, on some level, I suppose you have to thank her. We have this giant Trump mugshot in our studio now. It's iconic. We have the parental advisory Donald Trump mugshot here in the studio. Obviously, you have the avatar. But also, it does seem incredibly corrosive to the system and quite embarrassing for the state of Georgia to have these public officials be allowed to continue to serve in office. We did our own sort of research on Fani Willis and found that she herself questioned the elections in Georgia and how they were conducted in a long series of posts. And I believe you retweeted this. And it does seem like maybe Fani Willis is the one who potentially should be charged next for questioning the Georgia elections, as she regularly and has consistently done throughout her entire career. So hopefully the house can be clean there. We do have a question for you from our Benny Brigade. Our final question for you today, Congresswoman, directly from our supporters, from Evan, asking, will Dr. Fauci be held accountable for his crimes? I feel like he's done so much damage. And why is he able to walk free? I was not able to visit my grandmother in the nursing home the last few months. She was alive. And I really pray that something is able to happen to hold accountable Dr. Fauci. I know he's not on your Christmas list. What is the Republican House majority doing?
Evan, I appreciate your question, and that's the question I'll take back with me to Washington, D.C., and I stand on your side, and I'm so sorry for your loss. Actually, I think Dr. Fauci belongs in prison for his advice and for his so-called medical advice was basically tyrannical advice. It wasn't even advice. These mandates and lockdowns that locked away our grandparents, where people had to watch their grandparents die on television or just never saw them again and just found out they passed away. That is purely criminal. I serve on the COVID sub select committee, and Dr. Fauci is someone that I look forward to coming in and talking to our committee. I have a lot to say to him. I don't really have any questions. I just have a lot that he needs to hear directly to his face. And Evan, on behalf of you, I will make sure I remember that your grandmother died locked away, like in a prison. And so, yeah, Dr. Fauci definitely has it coming to him. Benny, I'll tell you something right now. I'm not your typical Republican. And I believe that the Democrats opened Pandora's box, and we need to use the same tools and weapons back on them as they have done to us. And it should not be let go. None of this should ever be let go. And if anyone's walking around with a mask right now, they are either severely brainwashed, and we should pity them, or we should tell them how ridiculous they look. It's absurd. But I have my office working on some important legislation. I'm going to be introducing a bill on the House side, a companion bill to J.D. Vance's Senate bill, where we are not going to be funding any school that is forcing mask or vaccine mandates on children. This is absurd. It's out of control. And I mean, it's ridiculous right now. Benny, look at Jill Biden, vaxxed and boosted, I don't know how many times. And then, oh, she's positive with COVID. It's like, that is proof right there that all of this has been an absolute lie. And Dr. Fauci has known it from the beginning. I have a poster board. I'll put it back up out of my office when I get back to Washington. That is an email from Dr. Fauci to one of his friends. I think it's back in February of 2020, saying, "Oh, you don't need to wear a mask. They're absolutely unnecessary. They don't block the transmission of COVID." So he knows it right there. So all of this is absurd. It's insanity. We will not comply. We will shut down every ounce of this country if they try to put these mandates back on us and lockdowns.
Yes. Congresswoman, thank you so very much for being on the program. Everyone go over to X and follow the great Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, also with the absolutely stunning avatar there. Congresswoman, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for fighting, Benny. I really appreciate you.